Hola chicos, bienvenidos a Español con Juani. Ahora tengo algunas preguntas para ti. Is stating obligations in Spanish important? Yes. Now, is tener a great way to express obligations? Absolutely. Por ejemplo, tengo que ir al supermercado, or tenemos que visitar a mis padres. Now, the main question I have for you, is it important to learn how to express obligations but without using the verb tener? Definitely. Especially if you've been learning Spanish for a little while now, because the more you can express yourself, the more you'll continue to advance your own Spanish, but not only that, the more engaging your conversations are going to be for not only yourself, but for the people you're actually speaking to. Now, here are two simple alternatives to expressing obligation that you can add into your Spanish straight away without using the verb tener. Now everyone, first up, using the verb haber to express general obligations. So remember, when I say general obligations, I mean we're not talking about any one specific person or group of people. We're just speaking in general terms, as in everyone must do it. So first up, let me give you some examples in English. So if I was to say, everyone must eat more fruit and vegetables, or you need to go to the gym 3 times a week. But I'm using that example, but I'm talking in general sense. So I'm not talking as in you specifically, I'm just talking about everyone should be doing it. So the way to express this in Spanish would be using this formula, I plus que, plus another verb in its infinitive or basic form. Por ejemplo, if I wanted to use those two examples I gave to you before, we would say, hay que comer más frutas y verduras. So, hay que comer más frutas y verduras. O, hay que ir al gimnasio 3 veces por semana. So, hay que ir al gimnasio 3 veces por semana. Or let's try another one. Hay que aprender español. So, hay que aprender español. Or hay que trabajar duro. So, hay que trabajar duro. Awesome. So it's pretty simple, really, isn't it? But now the big question is, and it's a question that a lot of people struggle with, and that is, what's the difference between tener que and hay que? So the main thing to remember is when we're using tener que, we're speaking about someone or something in particular. So if I use that example I used before, if I wanted to say to you specifically, you have to eat more fruit and vegetables, I'd say, tienes que comer más frutas y verduras. So tienes que comer más frutas y verduras. However, if I wanted to speak in general that everyone needs to eat more fruit and vegetables, then I would say hay que comer más frutas y verduras. Y finalmente, using the verb deber. So deber. So think of the verb deber as in expressing what you must do. So it's pretty simple. We first conjugate the verb deber, and then we add on another verb in its infinitive form. Por ejemplo, debo trabajar más duro. So debo trabajar más duro. Or debo ganar más dinero para mi familia. So debo ganar más dinero para mi familia. All right, let's try another one. Debo leer más libros en español. So, debo leer más libros en español. All right, guys, so you can see it's pretty simple to use, but the big question is, and it's a question that a lot of people struggle with, is what's the difference between using tener que plus infinitive and using deber plus infinitive? So the main thing to remember is that when we use the verb tener, we're expressing obligations that are coming outside. So that external obligation. So for example, you might need to work harder on a particular day because your boss and your team around you need to stick to a certain deadline. So they need you to work harder. So think of it as, again, external obligation. Now think of using deber as in expressing obligations that come internally. So they come from within you. And it could be due to any number of reasons. Like, to give you an example of myself, I must go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, more for my own personal self-esteem. So it's not something that's coming from outside. It's more just an internal obligation I have within myself. Now everyone, I know it's difficult to remember sometimes when to use this and when to use that, but just remember the best way to get better and advance your Spanish is to keep practicing. So add these into your Spanish conversation, and I'll see you in the next one. Hasta pronto.